There is a truth so soft it cannot be shouted, so powerful it cannot be denied. You do not need to hope for what is already yours. You need only to assume the truth of your being. Assume it the way the sun assumes its rising, the way the ocean assumes its depth, the way the stars assume their right to shine. Hope waits for something to arrive, but assumption knows it has already come. And the moment you assume that you are worthy, you awaken the divine within you, not in arrogance, but in remembrance. In that holy stillness, beyond striving, beyond begging, beyond needing, you arrive. You were never meant to plead for love, for abundance, for healing. You were meant to claim them not as entitlements of ego, but as birthrights of spirit. The lilies of the field do not hope to be adorned. They bloom in the knowing that they are already adorned by the source of all life. The birds of the air do not wake with anxiety. They sing because they assume the sky will hold them. You too are meant to live like this, not reaching, but resting, not hoping, but knowing, not performing, but embodying. To hope is to place your dreams at a distance. To assume is to close that distance with faith. This is not the faith of wishing, it is the faith of alignment, of walking as if it were already done, because in the mind of the infinite, it already is. Time is not linear in the realm of spirit. Every possibility already exists, suspended in sacred stillness, waiting not to be created, but to be claimed. And when you assume your divinity, your wholeness, your worthiness, you step into the stream of what already is. You merge with the current of your highest self. This is not a denial of the world. It is a refusal to be ruled by its illusions. It is the quiet revolution of awakening, where you stop living as a seeker and begin to live as a knower. The Tao says, he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. But you, beloved soul, are being called into a new knowing, not of words, but of embodiment, not of concepts, but of being. You are being invited to shed the identity of the one who needs to be fixed and assume the identity of the one who has always been whole. Assume peace, not when the world is calm, but when your breath returns to its natural rhythm. Assume love, not when another offers it, but when you remember that you are its source. Assume abundance, not when the numbers align, but when you recognize that true wealth is your capacity to give, to create, to trust the flow. And assume healing, not as a future goal, but as a present permission. Healing does not wait for proof, it begins with belief. The body responds, not to fear, but to the frequency of faith. Do not beg the universe for what you are. You are not a beggar at the gates of heaven. You are heaven remembering itself in form. You are not a seeker knocking on the door of truth. You are the door, already open, already shining. Every time you say, I hope it will happen, you affirm its absence. But every time you say it is done, you shift the entire cosmos in your favor. Not because you control the universe, but because you have ceased resisting it. What you assume, you embody. What you embody, you attract. What you attract, you become. This is not magic, it is metaphysics. The laws of energy, consciousness, vibration. The essence of all spiritual truth is that what you believe, you become. And the deepest belief is not spoken, it is lived. It is assumed in every breath, every step, every quiet yes to the present moment. When Jesus said, ask and you shall receive, he did not mean to plead. He meant to ask in faith and then walk as though you have already received. Because in the eyes of God, you already have. You are the creator of your state of being. And your state of being is the mold into which reality pours itself. Change your assumption and you change your life, not by force, but by frequency. Not by effort, but by alignment. And the only way to assume the truth is to stop assuming the lie that you are separate, the lie that you are unworthy, the lie that you must wait to become enough. Enoughness is not a destination, it is your original home. The soul never hopes it remembers. It doesn't strive, it allows. It doesn't doubt, it abides in truth. And that truth is, you are already what you long to be. You are not on a journey to earn your light, you are on a journey to uncover it. To strip away every falsehood that said, you are not. To burn through every illusion that whispered, one day, that day is not coming, that day is now. The awakening does not arrive with lightning or thunder, it arrives in the quiet assumption of truth. Let your life be a mirror of your inner certainty. Walk as one who knows, not because the world told you, but because your soul cannot forget. Assume that the universe is on your side, and it begins to conspire in ways your logic could never predict. Assume that you are loved, and love begins to greet you in every glance, every breeze, every sacred silence. Assume that you are enough, and every circumstance that once echoed your lack begins to fall away like shadows at sunrise. There is no need to chase. There is no need to hope. There is only the sacred art of assumption. Walk not with the question, but with the answer already alive in your step. Say not, I hope I will be, but I am. Let your life become an embodiment of the divine certainty that what you are seeking has already been given, not outside you, not in some future chapter, but here, now, in this breath, in this being. And so you rise not with urgency, not with noise, but with the quiet assurance of one who remembers. You remember that you are not a visitor in this life, here to earn your place. You are an extension of the infinite, an echo of the divine, a wave from the great ocean of being. And in that remembering, there is nothing left to prove. The proving ends when the knowing begins. The performance dissolves when the presence returns. And what remains is sacred, softer than thought, deeper than identity, more lasting than any title you could wear. Assume your power, not the kind that conquers, but the kind that liberates. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands stillness. You see, the most powerful energy in the world is not force, it is presence. When you walk into a room with the assumption that you are whole, the room shifts, not because of your words, but because of your frequency. Not because of what you say, but because of what you are being. And being is always louder than doing. The soul doesn't shout, it emanates. This is the turning point, not when the world bends to your will, but when your will bends to the knowing that all is already well, that you don't need to chase what is already yours, that you don't need to be better in order to be divine. You were divine when you were born. You were divine before the world gave you a name, before you were praised, before you were criticized, before the masks, before the shame, before the striving. Underneath it all, your essence remains untouched. Assume it now, not when it's easy, not when the storm passes, but in the very center of the storm. Assume peace when the world offers noise. Assume joy when circumstances tempt sorrow. Assume trust when doubt pounds at the door. This is not spiritual naivety, it is spiritual mastery. To choose your vibration regardless of appearances. To stand in truth when illusion seduces. To assume the light even when shadows dance across your vision. And here lies the paradox. The less you need to be seen, the more clearly you shine. The less you grasp, the more freely life flows. The less you seek validation, the more magnetic your energy becomes. Because assumption is not about arrogance. It is not a mask you wear. It is a vibration you carry. It is what happens when you finally stop arguing with your divinity. When you stop auditioning for what has already been granted. When you walk into every moment not with fear of rejection, but with the quiet certainty of belonging. You belong. You have always belonged. The breath that moves through you is not yours by accident. It is the breath of the cosmos. It chose you. Not for punishment, not for performance, but for participation in this miracle called now. And this now, beloved soul, is where your power lives. Not yesterday, not someday, now. So begin. Begin again if you must. But begin from the assumption that you are not behind, not broken, not lacking. Begin from the sacred knowing that nothing real can be lost, that everything essential is already within, that the essence of who you are is not waiting for permission, it's waiting for presence. Show up to your life not with apology, but with reverence. Walk not as a seeker, but as one who has found and now lives to remember. Assume your healing. Assume your beauty. Assume your enoughness with every breath. Not because the world confirms it, but because the soul never needed confirmation. It only needed your attention, and now you are listening. From the first moment your heart began to beat, before language, before thought, before memory, there was already an intelligence living you, breathing you, being you. That intelligence is not interested in your performance. It does not measure your worth in titles or tasks. It knows you as itself. It does not hope that you will awaken. It assumes you will, because awakening is not a miracle reserved for the worthy. It is your nature. It is not a reward, it is a return. And you return not by becoming more, but by releasing what you are not. You release the need to earn your being. You release the fear that you are not ready. You release the belief that you must be fixed before you are free. You see, the ego waits for proof, but the soul walks by light, not the light of evidence, but the light of knowing, the kind of knowing that blooms in silence, the kind that cannot be explained, only felt, the kind that whispers in the middle of the night, you are already home. When you walk in assumption, you do not walk faster, you walk deeper. You begin to see through the veil of appearances. You see that pain is not a punishment, but a portal. That loss is not a failure, but a clearing. That delay is not denial, but divine choreography. You stop reacting to the surface and begin responding to the truth beneath it. You stop negotiating with life and start dancing with it. And in that dance, you are no longer a puppet of circumstance. You are a partner with the infinite. Assume and you create, not from the mind's desperation, but from the soul's remembrance. Assume and you open, you soften, you receive. You allow the river of life to carry you without resistance. Not because you are weak, but because you finally understand what real strength is. Strength is not control, it is surrender to what is real. It is not tightening your grip, it is loosening your identity until only presence remains. You do not need to hope that you are loved. You are love learning to see itself in every reflection, every hand you've held, every tear you've shed, every stranger you've smiled at, every act of forgiveness. These are not random. They are the soul's signature. They are reminders that you have always known the way home, even when your feet were tired, even when your voice trembled, even when your faith grew thin. And in the moments when you forgot, when you bent under the weight of doubt, you were still held, still guided, still wrapped in the arms of an unseen presence that does not hope you'll make it but knows you already have. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, who you've always been, who you will always be beneath every mask, every name, every lifetime. You are the eternal breath breathing itself into form. You are the silence that sings beneath the noise. You are not the storm, you are the space that holds the storm. There is a sacred current running through your life. You do not need to control it. You need only to trust it. Assume that it is guiding you, even when doors close, even when hearts break, even when the map falls apart in your hands, especially then, because it is in those moments of surrender that you finally taste the truth, that life has never abandoned you. That grace is not a reward for perfection, it is a companion for the broken. It is the soft hand that lifts you when you have nothing left to lift yourself. It is the quiet presence that stands with you when hope is no longer enough. So stand now, not in defiance, but in trust. Stand not as one waiting for the world to tell you who you are, but as one who has remembered that you are a creator, not a victim, that you are a soul, not a story, that you are the observer, not the condition, the awareness, not the circumstance. You are not here to react, you are here to radiate, not because you are above pain, but because you are deeper than pain. Not because you do not struggle, but because you do not identify with the struggle. The struggle is part of your journey, but it is not your name. Your name is I am, your essence is being, your nature is divine. And once you assume this, truly assume it, everything begins to move differently around you. You speak differently. You breathe differently. You stop chasing validation because your worth is no longer in question. You stop explaining yourself because your being is its own explanation. You stop running because there is nothing to outrun. You are already here, and here is sacred. Let the world do what it must. Let others walk their own path. Your task is not to convince, it is to live. To be so anchored in your own light that you no longer require external confirmation to feel whole. The sun does not ask the sky if it may rise. The river does not seek permission to flow. And you, beloved soul, do not need to ask the world if you are enough. You are not waiting to become the light, you are remembering that you already are. This is the deep shift, the sacred reversal, the turning from hope to knowing, from seeking to embodying, from fear to trust. You stop trying to change the world from the outside in and begin changing it from the inside out by assuming your peace, your joy, your wholeness, your divinity, by becoming the frequency you once hoped to find. You stop looking for the miracle and start being the miracle. And in this being, there is no strain. There is only breath. There is only flow. There is only this moment, perfectly ordained, infinitely alive, and you here in the center of it all, remembering what cannot be taught, reclaiming what cannot be taken, becoming what you have always been. Do not hope for change, assume your power to be the change. Do not hope to be seen, assume your place in the great unfolding. Do not hope to be chosen, assume that you already are, by the very force that births stars and sings through your bones. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are not lacking. You are the breath of the divine made visible. You are the answer to your own question. You are the flame you've been chasing. And now you remember. The time for waiting has passed. The season of seeking is done. Now is the moment of becoming not something new, but something remembered. You were not born to inch toward the truth in measured, cautious steps. You were born to awaken in a single breath, to rise with the knowing that all of life is conspiring for your unfolding, that the ground beneath your feet does not merely hold you, it celebrates you, that the sky above does not merely stretch, it opens wide in recognition of your return. And so you return. You return to the still place, the sacred place, the silent center within you that has never known fear, never known lack, never known separation. This is the part of you that does not hope for peace, it is peace. It does not beg for love, it is love. It does not chase healing, it is the field in which all wounds dissolve. And when you live from this center, your life no longer spins in reaction, it radiates, it echoes, it blesses, without trying, without striving, like a flower blooming in its time, like a star burning without effort, like the breath that rises simply because it can. Do you see it now? How hope once served as a placeholder for your power. How you reached outward, not because you lacked, but because you forgot. You forgot the kingdom within, the light behind your eyes, the truth that cannot be spoken, but lives in the marrow of your being. And now, as that truth stirs once more, you begin to walk not as one who is trying, but as one who is remembering. You remember that you are the miracle. That you are not here to find worth, you are here to live it, to breathe it, to walk through the world as a living, moving, radiant declaration of enoughness. This shift changes everything. Your questions soften, your pace slows, your breath deepens. You stop rushing toward the future because you finally trust the present. You stop bargaining with life because you finally know who you are. And when you know who you are, you need not shout it. You need not defend it. You need not prove it to anyone, not even to yourself. The truth does not require your explanation. It only asks for your embodiment. And embodiment is where the sacred work begins. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. Real in your pain, real in your joy, real in your silence, real in your laughter. It is about living not as a curated version of yourself, but as the raw, unfiltered presence of what is. That presence is powerful. Not because it dominates, but because it dissolves everything false. It is the quiet storm that clears the path, the sacred fire that burns the mask, the oceanic presence that needs no permission to flow. When you live as this presence, your life begins to arrange itself in mysterious ways. Not because you have finally figured it out, but because you have finally surrendered the need to figure it out. You stop asking for signs and become the sign. You stop looking for answers and become the answer. You stop praying for light and become the source of it. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is not delusion, it is devotion to truth. And the truth is, you are not separate from the source. You are its expression. You are not a servant of love, you are its embodiment. You are not a visitor in this universe, you are its heartbeat in human form. So walk now as one who knows, not with swagger, but with sacredness, not with pride, but with presence. Let every step you take affirm the truth you have claimed. Let every breath you draw be a testament to the life that lives through you. Let your silence be loud with knowing. Let your gaze carry the weight of eternity. And when doubt arises, as it will, do not shrink, do not run, do not hope it goes away. Assume your center once more. Return to your breath, return to your being. Doubt is not your enemy, it is your initiation. It is the shadow that confirms the presence of light. And your task is not to extinguish it, but to see it, hold it, and love yourself anyway. Love yourself anyway. Love yourself in the confusion, in the mess, in the unpolished moments. Love yourself not as a project to fix, but as a temple to inhabit. Assume your own worthiness so completely that even your flaws feel sacred, so deeply that even your wounds begin to sing. And yes, there will be moments when the old voices return, the voices that say, "Who do you think you are?" The voices that whisper, "You are not ready, not enough, not yet." Smile at them, bless them, but do not believe them, for they are echoes of a time when you hoped. And you, my dear, have moved beyond hope. You are not hoping anymore. You are being. You are knowing. You are remembering. And remembrance is a holy act. It is how the soul reclaims its throne. It is how the light returns to the eyes. It is how heaven finds a home on earth, not in cathedrals, but in consciousness. Not in doctrines, but in presence. You are that presence. And this life is your altar. This breath is your offering. This moment is your miracle. So breathe it in, all of it. The beauty, the ache, the wonder, the not knowing. Breathe it in, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a vessel of the divine. And as you do, feel the quiet revolution rising within you. The revolution that says, I no longer need to hope for peace. I am peace. I no longer need to hope for love. I am love. I no longer need to hope for worth. I am the breath of God in motion. I am. You are. And you always have been. There is a sacred rhythm beneath all things, a pulse, an invisible current, an ancient heartbeat echoing through every leaf, every wave, every breath you take. And you are not separate from this rhythm. You are the note that completes the song. You are the silence between the syllables of the divine. You are the awareness that turns mere existence into sacred experience. And when you remember this, when you drop back into the knowing of your essential nature, you stop waiting for life to grant you peace. You stop hoping to be chosen. You stop rehearsing a version of yourself that you think is lovable. You exhale the performance and inhale your truth. This is where freedom begins, not in having the perfect story, but in finally releasing the need to explain it. Not in reaching the summit, but in realizing that every step has always been holy, even the missteps, even the stumbles, even the nights you thought you'd never rise again, especially those nights, because that's when your soul was closest. Not loud, not flamboyant, just present, just patient, just there. Assume that every tear you've ever shed was not a sign of weakness, but a river of remembrance washing away the layers that no longer served you. Assume that every delay was grace in disguise. Assume that every ending was the soul making room for something more aligned. This is not a philosophy, it is the truth. A truth so intimate, so tender, that it refuses to shout. It waits for you to slow down. It waits for you to unclench your fists. It waits for you to stop running long enough to realize there was never anywhere to run. You are not missing anything. You have never been late. You have never been lost. The destination has always been within, and the key has always been presence. Not passive resignation, but active alignment. A conscious choosing to live as though the miracle has already happened, because in the timeless realm of your soul, it has. The shift occurred the moment you stopped hoping for it and began living from it. To live from assumption is to stop knocking on the door and realize you are the house, to stop lighting candles in the dark and realize you are the flame. You stop pleading for light because you remember you are what lights the way. The world outside may still dance in confusion, but you carry clarity now. Not because your mind has all the answers, but because your being is finally at home in the questions. You no longer need certainty. You've become the sacred space that can hold uncertainty without collapsing. And this, beloved, is the way of the mystic, the one who walks through life not demanding clarity from the world, but emanating clarity into it. The one who does not beg for peace, but becomes its living embodiment. The one who does not chase meaning, but breathes meaning into every gesture, every glance, every mundane moment that suddenly becomes holy in their presence. Do not underestimate this power. The ego will tell you that power comes from being seen, being praised, being recognized. But the soul knows that real power comes from alignment, from quiet assumption, from the gentle audacity to live as though heaven is here, because it is. Not out there, not in some faraway reward system, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in this body you occupy and this path you walk. And as you walk, you begin to notice things you once missed. You see beauty where there was once only urgency. You see grace in the places where pain used to live. You see the divine not just in mountaintops and sacred texts, but in traffic lights and grocery lines and tired eyes that carry stories you'll never fully know. Life stops being something to survive. It becomes something to savor. You're no longer measuring moments, you're merging with them, because hope creates distance, but assumption creates intimacy. Intimacy with life, intimacy with yourself, intimacy with the present moment as it is not as it should be. And in that intimacy, the miraculous unfolds. Not in fireworks, not in dramatic revelations, but in the quiet miracle of being here, being real, being alive in a world that forgot how to slow down long enough to remember its soul. You are remembering now, not because I am telling you anything new, but because something inside you already knew. You knew that truth doesn't arrive, it is uncovered. You knew that love doesn't come and go, it is what remains when all fear is released. You knew that joy doesn't need a reason, it is your natural state when the mind softens and the heart opens. And now you live as that. You rise each day not with a checklist of how to earn love, but with the knowing that love is the ground of your being. You speak not to impress, but to connect. You give not to get, but because giving is your overflow. You create not to be noticed, but because the act of creation is its own reward. You walk through the world not hoping to be seen, but seeing everything more clearly. The sacred in the ordinary, the eternal in the fleeting, the divine in the details. You become, without trying, the lighthouse. The one who does not chase ships, but stands rooted in truth, radiating light, not for applause, not for recognition, but because it is your nature, and that is enough. Let this be the moment you stop asking if you are worthy and begin living as though worthiness was stitched into your very breath. Let this be the moment you no longer plead for peace, but instead breathe as if peace were the air itself. Let this be the moment you stop standing at the gate of your own life, waiting for the world to hand you permission, and instead step in. You have waited long enough. You have doubted long enough. You have whispered prayers into the night, hoping the stars would answer. And now, they do not with noise, but with light. Not with promises, but with presence. And that presence is not coming from the sky. It is rising from within you. You are not the echo of broken moments. You are the original sound of being. You are not the shadow of past decisions. You are the living truth unfolding in this breath. And there is no version of you more sacred than the one sitting here now, breathing this air, carrying this heart, walking this earth. You do not need to see the whole path. You only need to trust that each step you take from truth is its own arrival. You do not need the applause of the world. You need only the quiet approval of your soul. And your soul is already nodding, already whispering, yes, yes, beloved, this is it. This is the moment you stop hoping and begin assuming. Assume your light. Assume your place. Assume the throne within your own being, not to rule, but to remember. Because the one who hopes is the one who believes it is not yet time. But the one who assumes breathes with the rhythm of eternity. You have nothing to prove, no gate to unlock, no worth to earn. All has already been given. It is only your permission to receive that was missing, and now you give it with a sigh, with a surrender, with a sacred yes that vibrates through your entire being. Yes, to the life that is already yours. Yes, to the truth that cannot be revoked. Yes, to the light that does not flicker when storms arise. You do not hope for the sun to rise, you assume it will. You do not question the waves they come. You do not beg the stars to return, they arrive, night after night, without fail. So too is your essence. So too is your worth. So too is the love that breathes through your chest and guides your every step. You are the arrival you've been waiting for. You are the answered prayer you once whispered into the dark. You are the light you tried so long to chase. And now you see, you were never meant to chase it. You were meant to be it. And so you rise not by reaching, but by remembering. Not with force, but with faith. Not with hope, but with assumption. Because now, and now you are free. What are you assuming today? Are you assuming that life is against you? That you must earn your worth one exhausting day at a time? Are you assuming that your joy is on hold? Waiting on something or someone to arrive before you may finally exhale? Pause for a moment and breathe deeper. For every assumption you carry is like a veil placed between you and the infinite. The mind assumes, but the soul knows. The mind clings to what it has gathered from fear, but the soul rests in what it has always remembered. Every assumption is a story, a lens, a whisper from the ego trying to convince you that life must go a certain way in order to be right, that people must behave a certain way in order for you to be safe. But what if those assumptions are not the truth? What if they are the very barrier keeping you from it? Assumption is the armor of the wounded self. It seeks to predict in order to protect. It grasps at certainty because it has forgotten the deeper intelligence that has carried you through every chapter you thought you wouldn't survive. When you assume, you stop listening. When you assume, you stop seeing. And most heartbreaks are not caused by reality, but by the assumptions we placed upon it. Assumptions shrink the vastness of the moment into a narrative the mind can control. They turn miracles into transactions, love into negotiations, and life into a problem to be solved. But life was never meant to be reduced. It was meant to be lived, felt, embraced in its holy unpredictability. The Tao does not assume, it flows. Jesus did not assume the worth of those he touched. He saw the divine in every face. Rumi did not assume separation. He danced in union. The masters knew assumption is resistance in disguise. It is the ego's way of keeping control while claiming to seek truth. So ask yourself, what are you assuming today? Are you assuming you are not enough? That your healing must take years? That your joy must wait until the stars align? Are you assuming someone else must change for you to be free? These assumptions are quiet chains, and they are optional. You see, when you meet life without assumption, you meet it with presence. And presence is the gateway to freedom. Without assumption, a cloudy sky becomes a cathedral. A stranger's glance becomes a sacred reflection. A challenge becomes a curriculum for awakening. You stop boxing reality into what it should be and begin to receive it for what it is, a messenger of your own becoming. Every moment you assume someone's motives, you forfeit the mystery of who they really are. Every time you assume your future will be a replica of your past, you close the door on a miracle already knocking. Assumption is a subtle form of control, and control is the language of fear. But surrender is the mother tongue of the soul. It trusts the unseen. It welcomes the unknown. It walks into the now without needing it to be anything other than what it is. To live without assumption is to live as a child of the divine. It is to let the day unfold like a flower, not forcing the petals, but receiving the bloom. It is to listen to life like a lover listening to poetry, hearing not just the words, but the silence between them. The ego will resist this path. It will beg for maps, for guarantees, for something to hold. But your spirit is not here to hold. Your spirit is here to soar. You were not born to gather certainties like trophies. You were born to walk the holy edge of now with open hands. So let go. Let go of the assumption that you are behind. Let go of the assumption that you are broken. Let go of the assumption that the next moment will be just like the last. Each time you drop an assumption, you gain a new freedom. Each time you release a story, you remember the vastness of who you are. You are not the product of your predictions. You are the awareness behind them. You are not the sum of your fears. You are the light that sees through them. You are not a character bound by a script. You are the presence in which the story unfolds. And in that presence, there are no walls, no judgments, no chains, only breath, only stillness, only truth. You are already free. You simply assumed you weren't. You are already whole. You simply assumed you needed fixing. You are already loved. You simply assumed you had to earn it. Strip it all back, gently, with grace. Let every assumption be a leaf falling from the tree of your old identity. Beneath it, a naked, luminous truth emerges. Not one you must reach for, but one that has always been waiting beneath the noise. Meet this moment not with your mind, but with your soul. Not with what you expect to find, but with what is actually here. The miracle is not in what is coming. The miracle is in your willingness to drop the veil and finally see. What are you assuming today? That question is not a condemnation, it is a doorway. It is a hand on your shoulder inviting you inward, not to fix, not to change, but to see clearly, to breathe fully. To live as if life itself were your beloved, because it is. And the moment you stop assuming what life should be, you fall in love with what it already is. And in that love, you remember who you were before the stories. You remember the stillness that holds every storm. You remember that your greatest freedom is not found in knowing what's next, but in meeting what is, without assumption, without resistance, with the eyes of the soul wide open. So pause now. Inhale the mystery. Exhale the story. And in that sacred space between what you thought would be and what actually is, meet yourself anew. Not the self others assign to you. Not the self your fears describe, but the unnameable self, the eternal, the free, the divine. This is your invitation. This is your return. This is your truth. You do not have to know what will happen next in order to trust this moment. The ocean does not need to map the tides before it rises. The stars do not ask for permission to shine. Life does not consult your expectations before revealing its wisdom. And you, dear soul, are not here to anticipate every outcome. You are here to be in union with what is, to touch the now with open hands, not clenched fists. Every assumption you make is a brick in the wall that separates you from peace. And peace was never meant to be built. It was meant to be felt, like sunlight on the skin, like silence inside the breath. To assume is to step out of the present and into a maze of imagined futures. It is to live in a hologram of what might be, rather than in the holiness of what is. Assumption says, I already know, but the awakened soul whispers, I am ready to discover. When you stop assuming, even the most ordinary moment begins to shimmer with grace. You stop missing your life and begin meeting it. You stop bracing for disappointment and start leaning into wonder. Because every assumption you release is a door that swings open to a wider sky. What are you assuming about your worth? That it depends on what you do? That it changes with the opinions of others? That it increases only when you achieve? Hear this now, not as a concept, but as the very breath of truth. Your worth is not negotiable. It was not assigned by the world, and it cannot be taken by it. You are not a project, you are a presence. You are not a task to be completed, you are a light to be revealed. No assumption can make you more valuable, no failure can make you less. You are whole, because wholeness is your essence, not your achievement. And what of others? How often do we assume their silence is rejection, their words an attack, their actions a verdict against our being? But people are not their appearances. They are not their wounds. They are not the masks they wear when fear tightens its grip. To assume you know their hearts is to miss the sacred mystery within them. Every person you meet is a soul in motion. Every harsh word could be a cry for gentleness. Every cold glance could be the echo of a past they are still trying to forgive. When you stop assuming, you stop judging. When you stop judging, you start loving. And in that space, healing flows where division once reigned. Release the assumption that pain means you are doing something wrong. What if pain is not a punishment but a passage? What if your ache is not the enemy but the invitation? The soul does not seek comfort, it seeks awakening. And sometimes it wraps itself in sorrow, so you will sit still long enough to listen. Do not assume the hard moments are detours. They may be the most direct path home. They may be grace in disguise, not because they feel good, but because they strip away what you thought you needed to be whole. Assume nothing. Assume no outcome, no identity, no should. Stand like a mountain and breathe like the sea. Meet each moment like the first note of a sacred song, new, mysterious, alive. Let each breath be a reminder. You do not need to know. You need only to trust. Trust the intelligence that spins planets. Trust the rhythm that brings dawn after every dusk. Trust the whisper that says, you are held even now. Do not assume you are lost because the path looks unfamiliar. The soul often leads you into the unknown, not to confuse you, but to free you. What you call confusion may be clarity breaking through your old illusions. What you call failure may be the death of a lesser dream, making space for truth. Do not assume the detour is a mistake. It may be the miracle in disguise. The way may twist, but the destination is not a place. It is a state of being. And you arrive not by figuring it out, but by feeling your way home. The ego craves certainty. The soul craves connection. One binds you to stories, the other breaks you open to the sacred. Choose connection. Choose the unknown. Choose to meet the moment without your assumptions, without your defenses, without your plans. Just meet it fully, as you are, as it is. That is the miracle. That is the freedom you have been chasing under 1,000 different names. You are not here to defend your assumptions. You are here to dissolve them, and in their place, to live in wonder, in openness, in reverence. Because the less you assume, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you love. And the more you love, the more you return to the truth of who you are, a being not bound by belief, but liberated by presence. So I ask you again, softly, reverently, not to challenge you, but to awaken you. What are you assuming today? And are you willing just for this moment to let it go? To let life speak to you in its native tongue, not logic, not prediction, but presence. Let it speak to you through the wind on your face, the silence between your thoughts, the stillness behind your eyes. Let it remind you that you are not your assumptions, you are not your past. You are not even your name. You are the space between all that, the awareness holding it, the love flowing through it, the light untouched by it, and from that light, everything can begin again, fresh, free, fully alive. And when everything begins again, when you allow yourself to walk into the day without dragging the weight of yesterday's conclusions behind you, you find that you are no longer a prisoner of your story. You are a witness to the miracle. The moment you cease assuming how things should be, how people should act, how life should unfold, you awaken to what already is, and what already is, dear soul, is far more sacred than anything the mind could script. Do not assume that awakening will be loud. It may come like morning light inching across your floor in silence. It may come as a pause between thoughts, as a tear you can't quite explain, as a breath that suddenly feels like the first one you've ever truly taken. This is the grace of letting go. Not letting go of life, but of how you think life should appear. You stop needing to be right, and you begin needing only to be real. You stop performing, and you begin to presence. You stop bracing for the storm, and you begin to recognize that the storm too is sacred. Every assumption is a layer of fog over the luminous clarity that already resides within you. And the great returning, the holy homecoming, is not a journey through miles, but through veils. One by one, these veils fall. The assumptions of who you must be, the assumptions of how healing must look, the assumptions of how long it will take, the assumptions of what others must give you in order for you to feel complete. One by one, they dissolve in the light of awareness. And as they dissolve, the horizon of your soul stretches wider than you ever imagined possible. You are not here to predict, you're here to participate. You are not here to control the wind, you're here to dance with it. And there is no greater dance than the one that happens when you stop assuming you're separate from the rhythm. When you finally see that you are not the one standing at the edge of the ocean hoping to be invited in, you are the ocean, you are the tide, you are the moon that calls the waves. Let today be the day you become curious again. Curiosity is the child of wonder, and wonder is the language of God. Let yourself not know. Let yourself be undone. Let yourself dissolve into the awe of now. The moment you release the assumption that you must have it all figured out, you make room for something greater than understanding something ancient, quiet, and vast. You make room for grace, and grace does not arrive as a thunderclap, it arrives as presence. It is the soft whisper that says, you don't have to carry this anymore. It is the invisible hand that guides you, not because you earned it, but because you are it. Grace is not a reward, it is a remembrance, a return to your natural state, a return to the peace that was never gone, only covered. So if you must assume something today, let it be this. Assume that you are already enough. Assume that you are already guided. Assume that everything unfolding in your life is not a mistake, but a masterpiece in progress. Assume that the people you meet are sacred mirrors, reflecting back pieces of your own soul. Assume that your breath is holy, your tears are cleansing, and your longing is not lack, it is your soul trying to show you the way home. Assume that love is the default, not the exception. Assume that you are not waiting on the universe is waiting on you to stop pretending you are separate from it. Assume that you do not need to do more, be more, prove more in order to deserve rest, joy, or peace. Assume the best not just of life, but of yourself. And then watch what happens. Watch how life begins to echo back the beauty you assumed was not yet yours to claim. Watch how the people you once feared begin to soften in your presence. Watch how what once seemed chaotic begins to reveal a sacred geometry. Not because life has changed, but because you have. Because you finally let go of the lens that distorted your view. When you release the assumptions, you release the resistance, and what flows in to take its place is not emptiness, it is truth. It is clarity. It is the soft, unshakable knowing that you have never been outside of love, not for a single breath, not for a single moment. Let this knowing settle into your bones. Let it hold you. Let it become your compass. For when you walk through the world with this knowing, there is no fear that can bind you, no story that can define you, no outcome that can shake you. You are not the assumptions. You are the awareness beneath them. You are not the story, you are the stillness. You are not the seeker, you are what has been sought all along. And now that you've remembered, may you never again assume yourself to be small. May you walk through the world not with answers, but with presence, not with judgment, but with awe, not with resistance, but with grace. Because the only thing ever standing between you and the sacred was what you assumed to be true. But now you see, now you know. And in that knowing, you are free. Freedom is not a place you arrive at. It is the gentle loosening of everything you thought you had to be. It is the silence after the noise of identity fades. It is the calm that remains when you stop trying to define your value by how others receive you. True freedom is not in escaping your life. It is in inhabiting it so completely, so reverently, that even the ordinary becomes holy. When you no longer assume that you must be more, that you must do more, that you must prove something, you begin to hear the sacred hum that was always beneath the striving, the hum of being, the hum of God whispering through your breath, through your heartbeat, through the still gaze you offer to the world when you finally feel no need to guard yourself. And what rises in that stillness is not passivity, it is power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that liberates. Not the kind that demands, but the kind that magnetizes. This is the power of one who has nothing to prove, because they are rooted in the unshakable knowing that they are already whole. The world cannot manipulate such a soul, for their validation is not outsourced, it is born from within. They no longer negotiate their worth on the altar of performance. They no longer confuse attention for love. They no longer seek to fit a mold, for they have remembered. They are not clay, they are the hands shaping it. Let yourself be shaped, not by the assumptions of your past, but by the wisdom of your presence. Let go of who you thought you were supposed to be. That image is not your truth, it is your costume. And beneath the costume is a presence so vast, so luminous, so ancient, it does not need adornment to be beautiful. It simply is. And when you stand in that isness, when you no longer hide behind personality, profession, or pain, you begin to live as you were always meant to live, spontaneously, authentically, divinely. You become the space through which life reveals its most honest expression. You stop scripting your interactions and begin breathing them. You stop anticipating the next line in the play and begin feeling the texture of the moment itself. And in that presence, you do not need to be impressive, you only need to be real. It is the realness that heals. It is the presence that transforms. People are not longing for your perfection, they are longing for your truth. And your truth does not require explanation, it requires embodiment. So breathe now into the space that no longer pretends. Let your shoulders drop. Let your expectations soften. Let your mind ungrip from the need to know. You are not a machine built for output. You are a soul here to express the infinite through the intimate. Every laugh, every tear, every touch of your hand on your own heart is sacred when it is offered in truth. You do not need an audience. You do not need applause. You only need to return to the purity of your own gaze, unfiltered, unjudging, unwavering. In that gaze, all assumptions dissolve. You no longer assume that life is a problem to be solved. You begin to see that life is a presence to be felt. You no longer assume that others are threats or saviors. You begin to recognize them as fellow travelers, each carrying their own sacred wound, each worthy of your compassion. You no longer assume that your past must be repeated. You begin to feel the pulse of now, beckoning you to step off the carousel of unconscious living and into the vastness of awakened being. This is the moment that changes everything, not because the outer world shifts, but because the inner one does. You start to see the miracle not in grand gestures, but in small awakenings. The way a breeze brushes your cheek, the way a word lands in your chest like a memory of something eternal, the way your body knows when it is being honored, and your spirit sighs in relief when you stop running. Let that sigh be your prayer. Let that exhale be your anthem. You are no longer required to chase. You are invited to rest. Not in stagnation, but in sacred allowing. Rest in the rhythm of your own becoming. Rest in the knowing that you are not late, you are not broken. You are not incomplete, you are simply unfolding. And this unfolding does not need to be rushed, it does not need to be managed, it only needs to be honored. So honor yourself not as an idea, not as a project, but as a living, breathing portal of presence. Every step you take from this space becomes a blessing. Every word you speak becomes a mirror of the divine. Every moment you choose truth over assumption becomes an act of liberation for yourself and for every soul you touch. Because when one soul remembers its freedom, it leaves a trail for others to follow. A trail not made of declarations, but of presence. Not paved in certainty, but in love. And love, pure, unconditioned love, needs no explanation. It does not ask why. It does not hold a ledger. It does not assume. It simply shines. It simply gives. It simply is. And so are you. There is a silence within you that has never known fear. It does not flinch at uncertainty, does not retreat from the unknown. It waits not in hesitation, but in holiness. It waits for you to return, not with answers, but with presence. And each time you turn inward, each time you dare to be still in a world that worships noise, you come closer to that inner sanctuary where assumptions cannot survive. There, in the stillness beneath your thoughts, is where truth lives. Not as a sentence to be spoken, but as a state of being so complete, it cannot be improved upon, only remembered. To live from that space is not to disengage from life, but to engage with it more fully. You do not float above your human experience, you dive into it with sacred clarity. You feel more, not less. You listen longer, not louder. You become the one who no longer reacts, but responds. And that response is no longer dictated by fear or assumption. It rises from a wellspring of wisdom that cannot be shaken. This is the mark of the awakened soul. Not that it avoids the fire, but that it learns to breathe through the flame without being consumed by it. Let each challenge be your teacher, not your tormentor. Let each disruption be a rearrangement in service of your deeper alignment. The ego will try to name everything good, bad, success, failure, but the soul does not label. The soul learns. It watches. It integrates, it allows, and the more you live as soul, the less you cling to conclusions. You begin to let things be incomplete. You begin to see the sacred in the unresolved, because there is beauty in what is still becoming, in what is not yet defined. Assumptions seek to finalize, to finish, to close the book too soon, but the soul lives in openness. It whispers, let it unfold, let it surprise you. This is not the kind of openness that comes from weakness. It is the strength of surrender, the courage to live undefended, the willingness to meet each person, each moment, each mirror, without the need to control the reflection. Imagine the freedom of no longer needing to explain yourself. Imagine the lightness of no longer trying to manage perceptions. When you assume nothing, you owe nothing to appearances. You are free to be honest, to be silent, to be full of wonder without performing certainty. And in this freedom, something begins to awaken that no amount of striving can reach. A kind of grace moves through you, not something you manufacture, but something you make room for. It animates your presence. It softens your gaze. It aligns your actions with an inner truth so vast, so ancient, it cannot be taught, only revealed through living. You become less concerned with being understood and more devoted to being aligned. You stop measuring life and outcomes and begin experiencing it in depth. Assumptions collapse under the weight of truth, and the truth is never heavy. It is only our resistance to it that feels burdensome. Let go of that resistance now, not with effort, but with trust. Trust that life is not here to punish you, but to polish you. Trust that each unanswered question is sacred in its own right. Trust that what is being withheld is not a denial, but a redirection towards something even more true. Life is not trying to confuse you, it is trying to deepen you. And in that depth, you do not find a new identity. You find the absence of identity. You find the still witness, the formless awareness that sees through all masks and remains untouched by all storms. This is the you that does not flinch, does not strive, does not assume. It simply is. And from that isness, everything else becomes clearer. Not because you've figured it all out, but because you've stopped needing to. The petals do not assume they must bloom by a certain date. They trust the sun. They trust the soil. They trust the quiet intelligence moving through their roots. So too can you. You do not need a map. You are not late. You are not being punished for past mistakes. You are simply in the soil phase. And the soil is not the end, it is the beginning of everything beautiful. Let yourself be quiet now. Let yourself be free. Let yourself exist beyond the ideas, beyond the performance, beyond the persona. The world does not need another perfect version of who you think you should be. It needs the honest, raw, unguarded truth of who you already are. That truth is not a product of assumption, it is born of presence. And presence is the doorway through which the sacred enters the world. And you, dear soul, are that doorway. Always have been, always will be. And so now, as you stand at the threshold of your own awareness, as the old assumptions fall like tired leaves in the wind, something softer begins to rise. Not an answer, not a command, just a deep, quiet clarity. A knowing that has no voice, yet speaks in every cell of your being. It is the knowing that you are not a question waiting to be solved, but a presence longing to be felt. You were never missing, you were only misidentified. And now, in the stillness where assumptions once stood, you find the open sky of your own soul stretching out in every direction. Let yourself expand into that sky. No boundaries, no definitions, no past chasing you, no future seducing you. Just this vast, eternal now, breathing you, holding you, loving you. The peace you've prayed for does not live in the resolution of all things. It lives in the surrender to what already is. The love you have begged for is not hidden in someone else's gaze. It is pouring through your very breath, aching to be recognized. The freedom you've sought like a distant flame is not ahead of you. It is in the moment you stop trying to become and simply allow yourself to be. There is nothing left to fix, nothing left to chase, nothing more to understand. The soul is not waiting for the mind to catch up. It is waiting for the mind to fall silent. And when it does, what floods in is not emptiness, it is everything. The smile that asks for nothing, the tear that honors everything, the breath that no longer reaches forward or clings backward, but simply exists as prayer in motion. You are not here to win at life. You are here to awaken to it, to walk barefoot through the ordinary and feel the miracle in every grain of it, to look into a stranger's eyes and see the whole cosmos reflected back, to hold your own heart gently as you would a sacred relic, knowing that every bruise is an opening, every scar a doorway through which the light has already passed. And when the world tells you again to hurry, to harden, to become someone else, you will remember this space, this vastness inside you that needs no defense. You will remember that you are not your name, your history, your roles, or your thoughts. You are the stillness beneath the movement, the presence behind the eyes, the love that has no opposite. You will move differently now. You will speak, not to fill silence, but to honor it. You will listen, not to respond, but to feel. You will walk, not to arrive, but to align. And your life, once tangled in effort, will begin to bloom in effortless grace, not because you made it so, but because you allowed it. This is the sacred return, not to a doctrine, not to a destination, but to the nameless truth within. And in that return, you do not find a new version of yourself. You find the one that has always been here, waiting patiently beneath the noise. You do not become the light, you remember you are the light. And that remembrance is enough to change everything. So let it be simple now. Let it be quiet. Let it be whole. No need to convince, explain, or strive. Just be. Be as you are, where you are, with nothing added, nothing subtracted. And in that pure being, the world will shift, not because you pushed it, but because your stillness moved the center of it. The sun does not apologize for shining. The river does not justify its flow. The tree does not question the seasons. And you, radiant soul, do not need to explain your existence. You are here. You are enough. You are whole. You are home. And the miracle is not coming. It is not ahead of you. It is not earned. It is already here. It is this breath, this awareness, this letting go, this surrender, this sacred remembering. There is nothing more to assume. Only everything left to feel, everything left to trust, everything left to become by unbecoming. You are not becoming something new. You are simply no longer denying what has always been true. And in that truth, you are free.